ladies, and welcome to the Beauty Shaman. So today I am very excited that we are starting a 4-part series on genetics and health with Mary Smith, who is a certified functional medicine health coach and genetic consultant at thirdacthealth.com. Thanks for joining me, Mary.
Thanks for having me, Suzanne.
So this is a really exciting conversation we're about to have, all about your genetic blueprint and how looking at your genetic blueprint, which is what you do, can help someone understand their health and become healthy. So this is fantastic because you deal with people who are in act 3 of their life, part 3 of their life, old like we people over 40, 50, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden, all of our health, all the crappy things we've done to our body are now taking shape. But you have a very different perspective on it. And I love your perspective. So share a little bit about what you do.
Okay, good. So I work with people to help them understand more about how their body functions by literally understanding how their genetics are expressing. So we dig into the genetic file, and I'm actually looking at their genes. And the way I always describe it to them is that if you think about your genes, okay, your DNA as a big long chain, like in every chain, there's weak links. Well, if the chain is just laying on a table and there's no pressure on the chain, you're never going to know which those weak links are. But if you pick that chain up and you pull at it from either end, if you pull hard enough, the chain is going to break at the weak link or links. So our genes are the same way. We have certain areas in our genetics, individual genes or grouping of genes, that predispose us to imbalances when we are living an imbalanced life. And by the time we get to this age, we know what they are pretty much because we're having problems. I mean, it shows up in all those diagnoses that we hate to hear, cancer, the big one, diabetes, high cholesterol levels, arthritis, inflammatory conditions. The list goes on and on and on. And sometimes it's the subtle things like we're not sleeping well, or we just don't have the energy that we once had, or all of a sudden our skin just starts looking really, really bad and our hair starts falling out. Like, what the heck's going on there, right?
Yeah.
So what the work I do is I work, first of all, the kind of step one is I work with people's genetics. So if they get ancestry done, let's say they do ancestry, when you do that test, one of the things that you have available to you is what's called your raw data file. Well, that raw data file has over 160,000 entries in it. That's information about your entire genome, not your entire genome, but a good portion of your genome. And then I work with it's a data analytics tool that I was trained on to actually be able to look within the gene file for the weak links. So we can see what the predispositions are. Now, the second piece of all of this is, I meet with people before I even begin that part of it, and we talk about their life. We talk about how it went, how they grow up, do they ever have any issues with their health? Are they an exerciser? Were they an active child? All these things. Because what I have learned through my work is that our life, as it has unfolded, is predictive oftentimes of what we find within the genetics themselves. And secondarily, oftentimes the life that we've lived has been the result of the conditions that we have or how our health is manifesting. And the third piece of it is to do certain testing. Because what I love to be able to do is take those two first parts and then be able to show someone through biochemical evidence of what is actually going on within their body and what genes are expressing and in which ways. And I do that through this test. It's called an OAT test, organic acid test. There's 76 different markers. It's looking at all kinds of things like neurotransmitter levels and your gut health and inflammatory things and oxidative stress, all kinds of things we can look at with the OAT test. And it's a simple urine test. The box is shipped to your home, you pee in a cup, and you send it in the mail. It's that simple. So I love that piece of it, though, because it's the evidentiary information of this is really what's happening in your body. And we can take that evidence and we can go back to the genetics and we can say, we need to support this gene pathway, or we need to support this gene family because it's activating in a way that's negatively impacting your biochemistry, as evidenced by the organic acids test. The way that we do that is lifestyle. A lot of it is just lifestyle. Sometimes it's we don't have enough of certain nutrients. We've got a terrible diet. We're not getting what we need. We're not sleeping well. Got too much stress in our life. There's a lot of things that we can point to. So I work with people to help them understand the direct kind of the correlation between the lifestyle choices and their genetics, and how their genetics are expressing to actually show up in their biochemistry, which is really what drives the imbalances.
So this is a complete change from going to a doctor. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because you go to the doctor, they give you 10 minutes, right? You're on the clock, and they
Yeah.
say, okay, what are your symptoms? Symptom driven.
Yep.
And then they
Yep.
say, take XYZ, and they give you your little meds, and you go home and you think, yeah, I've got my pill. But the trouble with having the pill is, or pills and chemicals, is a lot of times that has more bad effects on your body than the
Yeah.
actual illness. And
Yeah.
if a lot of people are like me, I'm super hypersensitive. I mean, I can't take hardly anything because
Yeah.
the list of may cause, the side effects, I will get
Yes.
seriously almost every one of those things.
Yeah.
So I really had to steer clear of chemicals early on in life because I've had such bad reactions. But I think what you're doing is completely different because you're actually looking at the whole person. And you actually spend a lot of
Mhm.
time looking at the whole person as well.
Yeah. A lot of time. Yeah. A lot of time goes into this because, and I think that is something that's kind of unique and different. But I was in the allopathic world. I'm as a registered nurse, I was in that world for a really long time. I started out in oncology, actually taking care of cancer patients. So I was kind of in the underbelly of the health world. And but really, what I've come to know is the allopathic model does not look at cause. It looks at its symptom management. That's what it is. And so when we talk about the fight against cancer, we're fighting cancer. We're not preventing it. We're fighting it. That's what the allopathic model is. And so it doesn't cure anything. It manages symptoms. In order to be able to cure a dysfunction in our body, we have to cure the imbalance. We have to bring the body back to balance again. And in order to understand the imbalance, you have to look beyond the symptoms and beyond the blood work. Because blood work, all it's doing is just showing us how our organs are functioning. It's not showing us what imbalances we have at the biochemical level that lead to organ dysfunction. And what we know is that an organic acid test can uncover an imbalance that 20 years later will manifest as type 2 diabetes. So, by being able to get that many years in front of something, we don't have to be the victim of disease. Okay? We can discover imbalances and we can work to rebalance our system by working with our genetics and giving our genes what they need in order to be able to express properly.
Yeah, this is so great. And what's interesting is ancient cultures know this. I mean, we've
Mhm.
talked about the ancient cultures. Like I used to live in Singapore, and in Singapore, if you got a cold, I mean, you would have, we call them the aunties. It's the women who are
Yes.
right. The aunties would come up and be like, "Oh, what you doing? No, la, you have to take, this," and then they would literally like bring me stuff. Like, no, yeah. And at first I thought these people are insane, but I thought, no, no, they're right. If I eat this bone broth
Yeah.
with extra, cumin or whatever they were telling me to put in it, because they're Ayurvedic, right? That's going to help heal all this. And then, you need to actually rest more. You need to drink more water. Like, it was telling me off because that's
Yeah.
what the aunties do. But they knew that through their history, through their
Yeah.
lineage, that
Yeah.
health is dictated by all those factors. And Western medicine kind of just dismissed all of it, and doesn't talk about diet or food or your thoughts or anything. It really just goes over here. So this is an ancient method of healing.
It is an ancient method of healing. And, I'm a firm believer in the ancient method of healing simply because I've seen the limitations of our scientific chemical based method of treating symptoms. All
Right.
right. There's no healing involved there at all. We evolved as a species right? Over time with our environment. Now, what within our environment do we interact the most with but food? We evolved with food. All right. We've survived hundreds of thousands of years because we evolved with the environmental part of our the part of our environment that we took within our body. So our physical bodies, our DNA, and everything about us is a manifestation of those adaptations. And it is why ancient medicine works so profoundly, because it's all about understanding what the body isn't getting that it needs. So depression is not a Prozac deficiency. It is not, no matter what anybody says. And this is the attitude of allopathic medicine. What we know about depression is mostly driven by nutrient deficiency. Now, what's interesting about nutrients is that nutrients in the form of phytochemicals, macronutrients like fats, carbohydrates, and protein, and then micronutrients, vitamins and minerals, those all are cofactors or keys in the locks that the genes need in order to make the proteins that our body needs in order to stay balanced. So when somebody has an imbalance, we can go back and we can look at, okay, what genetic expression is driving this and what cofactors are missing. And by providing those through food and supplements and herbs, just like the ancient, wise cultures of Ayurvedic and Chinese medicine have for centuries, for eons, people can get their balance back and they can be well again.
And that's so powerful. And it takes a lot of effort. I do want to toss this in towards the end here, but I feel like, it's almost like the cheap way out to give your power away to a doctor and get some meds, right? So
Yeah.
this method is okay. I got to learn how to cook some stuff, right? I got to learn
Yep.
how to. I need to go get my organic food, or I need to get my supplements. I need to be consistent in taking them. I got to get exercise routine. I've got to, it's an effort. Like it takes effort, and I think a lot of people aren't willing to do that. But personally, I see the repercussions of doing everything you're talking about, from the
Yeah.
thoughts to the physicality to what you're eating, everything, and how much better you feel. It is life enhancing, life changing. It is dramatic.
Yeah. And
Yes.
yes, and my belief is that, when we were created, we were created with a program, our unique program, our own unique DNA, to carry out a function. Okay, just like everything in life has a function. Some people like to use the word purpose. Function works for me. Okay, so I have a function in life. If I am not in resonance with my own biochemistry, I am not going to be able to carry out my function. The same way that if a car doesn't have enough oil, it can't drive down the road.
Right.
Right? But the problem is that so much of our culture is about external focus, right? It's all about trying to change what's out there in order to have a life, instead of recognizing that the way you build a life is by changing what goes on inside.
Yes.
And so it's a different orientation. So when you're talking about going to the grocery store and having to cook for yourself, it literally is about making a decision that you're going to have a relationship with yourself that is equal to the relationship that we all have with the external world. That's all it is. You make that decision.
And it's a very powerful decision. I think it's one of the
Mhm.
most powerful decisions you can make in your life, is to not be a victim, but to actually
Yep.
sit in the driver's seat of your life. And we're going to talk much more about that in
Yep.
the next sections. This is a 4-part series, so we're going to be doing covering different aspects of this in the next 3 parts. So definitely stay tuned, ladies, for those. For I'll be releasing them every week, because it's a fascinating discussion and super life changing for all of us. So thank you so much, Mary, for joining me on part 1 of our series.
Thanks, Suzanne. Appreciate it.
So, ladies, if you would like more information about Mary Smith, please go to her website at thirdacthealth.com, and she will give you a 20-minute free consultation, more about her services and how she can best help meet your needs. So thank you so much for watching The Beauty Shop.